Entering the necropolis.
I've got you in my sights. I've got you in my sights.
Bob! Do something! Bob! Do something! Bob! Do something! Do something!
I've got you in my sights.
Business?
Bob! Do something!
That was nice.
Bob! Do something!
Ready for a shot.
Do something!
Ready for a shot.
This! Serve this!
Bob! Do something! Do something! Bob! Do
My
something!
business? My
Serve this!
Bob! Do something!
Fire in the hole.
I've got you in my sights.
Bob! Do something! Bob! Do something!
Fire in the hole. Fire in the hole.
Serve this! Justice!
Meteor strikes.
Bob!
I can quit! Justice!
Meteor strike.
Serve this!
Meteor strike.
Serve this! Serve this! I'll show serve this!
Arriving at Watchpoint Gibraltar. Prepare to attack. Select your hero.
business?
I might need
My
this later.
rules. I never...
Attack commences in 30 seconds.
We shall prove
Here it
ourselves in glorious combat. A chance to fall.
Five, four, three, two, one. Attack commencing. Escort the payload.
Get in the saddle and let's ride. Fire in the hole!
This will heal you. I require assistance. Not good. Check this out. My will made real. I excited the enemy.
That was not in the plan.
Surrender to my will.
Here it comes!
Gale the Mahal!
I'm escorting the payload. Let's keep it moving.
Rally to me!
This will heal you.
EMP activated.
I am your shield.
Your strength else.
Fire in the hole!
Okay, Mahal.
Payload is
You getting me riled up. Hey, Bob's not ready yet. My ultimate is charging.
Primary objective. Move the payload. Kill the Mahal. Nice shot.
Smoke him out of there.
I've got you. Watch from afar.
meteor strike.
Огонь по готовности. Fire at will.
Translocate. Not letting that stand.
Jag fixar dig.
My ultimate is charging. My ultimate is charging.
The power of
Twice the
destruction.
payload stopped.
Get behind.
Ahorita regreso.
I've got you covered. Barriers on me.
I require assistance.
Here it comes.
I am moving the payload. Follow me.
I excited the enemy.
Easy. Damn it.
60 seconds remaining.
Surrender. Let's clean up this mess. My ultimate is charging.
EMP activated.
Payload.
Bob's taking a breather.
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
See you later. Ahorita regreso.
My will made real.
Touch.
I'm under attack.
Fire in the hole!
Payload moves with certainty.
Shield's taking damage.
Bob, do something!
Will serve your purpose. Allow me to repair the damage. Seemingly vague. The power of destruction.
From it.
Squid needs more seasoning.
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
I'm under attack.
Got the payload, now
Get
moving
into
out.
position. Regenerate.
Meteor strike. Damn.
Enemies over there.
Must be some reason I keep you around.
Get behind.
My shield's up.
Kill the Mahal.
Smoke him out of there.
Surrender to my will.
Shield's holding.
Bob's
Fire
not
at
ready.
will.
I might need this later.
It's
Hey.
Dead end. Огонь по готовности.
EMP activated.
Rally to me.
The power of destruction.
The payload is approaching its destination. Victory! Play of the game.
Come on, everyone. You're taking it.
Double EMP activated. Now traveling to Petra. Now entering King's Row.
Bob, do something!
I've got you in my sights.
My business?
Bob, do something! Bob, do something! Do something!
Nerf this! 动住！不洗澡！
Bob,
Fire in the hole!
动住！不洗澡
Fire in the hole!
！Nerf this! Fight for it! Nerf this! Nerf this!
15 kills to win.
I'm back in the game! Nerf this!
Let's start over.
Justice reigns from above!
Bob, do something!
Oh, meteor strike!
Bob, do something!
Meteor strike!
Bob, do something! Do something!
Fight for it!
Only through conflict.
Bob, do something!
This!
Enemy needs 10 kills to win.
Meteor strike!
Bob, do something!
This!
Meteor strike!
Fire in the hole!
I've got you in my sights. Meteor strike! Meteor strike!
Apagando las luces. Apagando las luces.
Bob, do something!
Apagando las luces.
Bob, do something! Do something!
I return to the fight.
Bob, do something!
Fire in the hole!
Surrender to my will. Surrender to my will. Огонь по готовности. Огонь по готовности. Огонь по готовности. No one can hide from my sight. Огонь по готовности. No one can hide from my sight. Огонь по готовности. Огонь по готовности. Огонь по готовности.
I will not be defeated so easily.
Damn it.
Now arriving at Lijiang Tower. Prepare for battle.
This one.
Select your hero.
He said it's time for English.
My business,
Game on.
my rules.
We shall prove ourselves
Let's get you
in
healed up.
glorious combat.
Fire in the hole!
Hey, so
5, 4, 3, 2,
you're like,
1. Round 1. Capture the objective.
Ooh.
Here it comes!
起来吧
Excuse me, my friend. I am your shield.
The objective is now active.
You feel that?
Time to change things up.
I need healing.
Healing boost!
This is strength.
Survival of the fittest.
Smoke them out of
Get behind me.
Now show them.
I have found the enemy. Come and face me.
How do you want that?
Go there.
Check this out!
Get out! Get in cover!
I'll take it objective. Oh, you want some?
Behind you!
Walk it off.
Ganaste?
oh my god. Did what I-
Baptiste here.
Nano boost administered.
I am unstoppable.
You getting me riled up.
Get here.
All systems checked out. I'm back in the fight.
Get in here. Get inside.
Apagando las luces.
I'm feeling unstoppable.
Look out.
Regen up.
Been here all along.
Come on!
Oh my guy.
Mecha activated.
Objective's mine.
Game on.
Get in here. Let them up.
I'm on the objective.
Come join me. Justice reigns from above.
Hostiles eliminated.
You have my thanks.
First round lost.
That was not in the plan.
Get in here.
Score 0-1.
Game on.
Stick to the plan.
So the PlayStation 5 may
I
be
bet
in a world of trouble. This is not good news. I'm hoping it's wrong and inaccurate, but things aren't looking too good. Let's get into it.
Skip it button that up.
First off, before I get into this episode, I want to give a huge shout out to my buddy Sean, who actually started his podcast called We Should Do a Podcast. Guess what the name of it is. He actually had me on there. He just interviewed me, and he's really engaging. I actually suggested that he start a podcast, and he did. So I'll links to it below in the description. He does a great job. I had a lot of fun being with him on the show today. I suggest you go check it out. Okay, so maybe I'm the only one. found it weird, just a little weird, that Microsoft for the Xbox Series X, we've seen the box. Yes, my Xbox One is still at the edge of the table because I'm an idiot.
You won't get rid of me, that.
Austin Evans on YouTube has literally dissected Microsoft's next-gen console. We've seen it inside and out. We know everything about it now. And with Sony, yeah, we got the specs. Mark Cerny went on and on about the hard drive. And he was talking about how it's have so on and so forth. But we still have not seen the console. While their competitor has basically, like, it was a strip show. They made the console get nude. We saw the Xbox Series X's movies and its ass. All right, I'm gonna roll with that. Well, it seems that there may be trouble in paradise for Sony, and if this information is true, things aren't looking good for Sony. Read this from comicbook.com. According to new report, the PlayStation 5 is in serious trouble. The report comes from a variety of sources, all of which relay that they've heard from developers making games for the PlayStation 5 who are worried about some of the console's shortcomings. The report comes way of Twitter user Jeff Rickle. You can check his account, it's protected, so I couldn't look into it, and has been somewhat substantiated by Windows Central journalists Daniel Levine and Jez Corden, who reported it for Scuttlebutt. I like that. The report begins by noting that
Justice reigns from above.
Sony has dropped the ball, partially because it underestimated Microsoft and the Xbox Series X. And this is why, by certain measures, the PS5 specs are considerably inferior to the specs of the Xbox Series X. According to this new rumor, the PS5 can't maintain its clock speeds, which is causing the hardware to fail at an alarming rate. Further, the lack of power is also a reason why the Xbox Series X is reliable in terms of the power draw. The PS5 is
I excite the enemy.
The report continues by noting that Sony is looking to a complete this redesign will leave the console looking similar to the Xbox Series X, which is very practical. The claim wraps up by noting Sony is contemplating a junk. That's not right. Console also knows it's considering launching a passive version national release of Xbox Series X, which would lead to a redesign coming later down the road. Now look, if this is true, and I know people who are like, oh my god, Rich, you're a real rumor USA. Look, this is what happens.
Charged. This would help.
I discussed the rumors. I did it with the PS4 and Xbox One were coming out. I did it with the Wii U back in the day, for Christ's sake. I'm gonna do it with the next one. But let's keep it
I
find it strange that Microsoft has basically put out all the cards on the table.
Justice reigns from above.
But Mark Cerny's bolt cut and the rumor. Doesn't that make you think something up? Doesn't that make you think that there's red flags are flying in the air right now? I think so. I've been thinking this for a while, that something has to be wrong. Why aren't they showing the console when we're getting supposedly so close to the release? And this makes sense. They probably wanted to do the Sony sleekness like they did with the PS4. But the PS4 was smaller and sleeker. They probably want to keep with that motif.
Someone better get a fire eats because I'm on a roll.
And now, with the console that they're stuck with, they currently have, they underestimated the power of the Xbox Series X. Microsoft's like, screw, we're just making a mini ITX tower. Cheers to them. I have no issue with the design of the Series X. Some people do. I don't. And now they're stuck with this smaller, because they probably tried to make a smaller console design. They underestimated the power. Overheating issues. It has to be the reason why we haven't seen it.
You're powered up. Get in there.
But something has to be done. I hope God this is wrong with the console. overheating and all just because we have to compete with Microsoft. I think that would be a terrible idea. But I also don't think it's a good idea for Sony to give Microsoft a year head start on their next-gen console. The Xbox Series X comes out more powerful a year ahead of the PlayStation 5. They're in PS3 territory all again. That's what happened. The 360 came out in 2005, November 2005, and the PS3 came out in 2006, at the end of 2006. That would be an awful idea to give Microsoft a year head start. I just feel like, every other generation, like one console does well, the company, the corporation behind that console, they get cocky and they forget the lessons they learned. Then they get humbled because they screwed up, because they went into the generation arrogant, and they learn from their mistakes. And the next generation, the company that was the more successful company, they get cocky, and when the next generation comes around, they screw up, and the company that screwed up last generation is now on top, so they get arrogant, and then the next generation comes around and they screw up, and the company that was behind before is now ahead because they learned from their mistakes. It's like a leapfrog thing that happens every generation. So look, this could all be wrong. This could all be mistakes, and the PS5 is perfectly fine. But with what I've been thinking and what this rumor is stating, it kind of all ties together. And it concerns me because it really does make sense. This is Rich of Review Tech USA signing out. Have a good one. I sure as hell hope I'm wrong, though.
Hey folks, today is Friday, April 3rd, 2020. As usual, my name is Jake Baldino, here to talk about all the video game news that has been going on this week. It is week 3 of our self-isolation, social distancing, quarantine thing, keeping safe here in New York because of the virus. I do want to say to you guys out there, whether you're working, you're not working, you're social distancing, whatever you have going on in your situation, everybody's tackling this differently. Hope you guys are safe, hope you guys are doing the right thing, and just getting through this the best you can. I really miss my boys. I'm really lonely here, but we gotta jump into the news. There is quite a bit to dive into, surprisingly. So
just a second.
Surrender to my will. Surrender to my
Meteor strike. No rest.
Nerf this. Justice reigns from above. Nerf this. Justice reigns. Justice. Cease your resistance. Cease your resistance. Огонь по готовности. Justice reigns from above.
No one can hide. Enemies
cease your resistance. по готовности.
Meteor strike!
Resistance. Cease your resistance.
Meteor strike!
Огонь по готовности.
Some people want the ease of just being able to slap in regular old household batteries, while other people want to
Welcome to Paris.
don't want to be saddled with
Prepare to attack.
rechargeable batteries in
Select your hero.
something like a DualShock controller where you have to basically just go buy a new one. So the way that Microsoft is looking at it is that the best case scenario is like a little bit of both. You have AA batteries that you can slap in it, and if you are a rechargeable battery type person, you buy rechargeable batteries and you just throw that in the sucker, which is actually what I've been doing lately at home. I don't know, it sounds so simple, but it was just something that we were like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. But
My
it's an interesting
business,
conversation. I want to hear from you
my
guys in the comments, like whether you're an Xbox player or not.
Stick to the plan. And if you get into trouble, I'll bail you out.
Batteries in your house. I personally never have them around when I need them. Do you like the good old rechargeable
Attack
controllers?
commences
Hate
in
having to
30
find new ones
seconds.
if it shits the bed.
Perfect
Regardless, though, I do want to point out
from the plan.
on much more in terms of just the philosophy.
Children, behave.
More tech spec stuff. But speaking of tech spec stuff, shout out to Eurogamer and Digital Foundry. They also did a sit down with Mark Cerny and went more in depth on his talk that he did like 2 weeks back about PlayStation 5 specs. And some interesting things came out if you are like a huge mega spec nerd. I'm not going to go through all of it, but basically from the horse's mouth you get a little bit of more of an idea of how the 3D audio and the Tempest engine works, how the PlayStation 5 boost clock works, more details and examples on the SSD, a lot of deep dive stuff. So if you are curious on just next-gen technology, check it out. And now it's time for some rumors. Real deep rumors. Buckle up here. Really take this with a grain of salt. But possibly we might know when the next Resident Evil is coming. Generally, what the date will be and an idea of where it is. But this is just kind of from a random insider, whether or not you can believe him. Aesthetic Gamer has teased little snippets and info, possibly, about the next Resident Evil in the past. And this new stuff caught my eye. It's pretty interesting. If it's true. Is it? I have no idea. But it's fun to talk about. Here's what he said. The 2021 Resident Evil game started development in late 2016. By the time it releases, it'll have been developed for 4.5 years. Its development is very similar to the original Resident Evil 3, not the remake. But I won't expand on what I mean by that until later. Because I know he probably used that at one point.
My servants never die.
Scenario ready for a shot. Character that everybody already knows and loves. That's just my Resident Evil brain. Anyway, the announcement for it will be very soon, and it's by far the biggest departure the series has ever taken.
Nothing wrong
to
with
the
a
point
little
I expect a lot of people
self-improvement.
will be pissed off about it when it gets revealed, but they should be open-minded.
All
Internal
systems
testing
checked
and the
out.
like show it's a high-quality game, and I'm quite excited. Now, is this Resident Evil 8? What is this? He's also said in the past that Code Veronica isn't a thing that's being remastered, and that still makes me mad. I have a lot of thoughts on the direction of this series, especially after the success of Resident Evil 7, the real great success of Resident Evil 2, and just finishing my playthrough of Resident Evil 3. I have a lot of ideas for this like, new, rebooted-ish, remade franchise. Maybe we'll talk about that in another video. Do you guys think this is legit? The Resident Evil brand is still strong. We know that the teams have been working
They are
on stuff
getting
and
on my
churning along. There's
nerves.
like a reinvigorated Capcom Resident Evil thing. So something's definitely coming. Like what? We don't know. When? I need companionship. Hello? Speaking of Resident Evil 3, I will have a before you buy video up ASAP. Generally, the gist of the game is it's really fun. I don't think it's as bad as I said it, but it is criminally short and definitely has some
Do something!
guys peeled. Anyway, I want to talk about some things here. Link in the description below. Some videos and stuff you might be interested in. Video way more Microsoft like multiplayer stuff. We finally know what it's going to be, and if you're excited to see it. We've also got a trailer that took a lot of people by storm for a game called Mortal Shell. This is very interesting. I'm really digging the aesthetic
60
and
seconds
just the whole vibe around it. It is, of course, seemingly going to be another Souls-like type of action RPG, but I like to hear
Everything is
spins on
falling
those
into
types of
place.
things. Also, Sony just kind of dropped this trailer for this game called Windbound. It's very colorful and interesting.
My
I'm
ultimate
curious to
is
see what you guys
charging.
think. Now let's talk about some Nintendo stuff. I'm so happy to talk about Nintendo. So the latest thing floating around is that Nintendo is planning a big celebration for Mario's 35th anniversary with a big launch of a bunch of Mario games. The rumor started with just kind of like Switch ports and Paper Mario. I'm very excited. But a new report. There's insider information. So again, grain of salt. Video Games Chronicle is saying that this is going to be like a big deal release with them being treated as a special anniversary collection of games rather than just regular, straightforward digital ports. Video Games Chronicle said that they can confirm that among the Mario titles set to appear on Switch are Super Mario 64, Super Mario 64, and Super Mario Galaxy.
My servants never die.
Enemy in my sight.
All I've wanted for a long time, man, is a modern way to play Super Mario Sunshine. Yeah, Galaxy 2. Unpopular opinion. I love the hell out of Mario Sunshine. New Paper Mario, of course, is also exciting to check some of the Wii games. Hopefully, this is great, and hopefully Nintendo will wrap it up. Also, BioWare for a new job listing. People have been speculating what BioWare is working on. Now we know that they're working on Dragon Age. It's been announced. It's a thing. We know there is a team working on it. But then we also kind of know that there is the other team, one of the original guys returning to work on Mass Effect again, giving it another shot. Now we have even more confirmation thanks to a job listing for a technical director, and the listing says you will be the most senior engineering lead on the next major title in one of BioWare's most prestigious franchises. That's the important point that got a lot of people excited. Okay, so it's a returning franchise. Is it another thing that they're working on? Are they working on like Empire, or is this just a double down confirmation that we are getting still Dragon Age and Mass Effect, which still I think is news in the sense that BioWare isn't dead after Anthem. EA is still supporting them. We are going to still get something like a Dragon Age project and a Mass Effect project. Even though they've been down and out, I am still willing to give them a shot, damn it, because they made one of my favorite games of all time, KOTOR. Also, side note, the job listing also mentioned AAA multiplayer experience, so whatever this game may be, it might have multiplayer as well. And now let's move on to talk about something totally different. The World Health Organization. Now you guys probably remember last year they came out and declared gaming as a disorder, something that can actually be treated clinically and could be cause for concern. We talked about that a lot. There's a lot of like opinions and a lot of ways to look at it, but now things seem to have changed a little bit, and I thought it was funny. I just wanted to point it out. So now with the virus going on and everybody kind of isolating and keeping to themselves, video games are on the run, and the World Health Organization is publicly saying that is a they have launched an initiative with some
Do something!
Otherwise, this hashtag play apart together. Do something! Follow this social distancing and just hang out at home. Just something that is funny. Do something! Helping people stay healthy and stay inside. Granted, there are more important pressing matters for the World Health Organization to talk about. It is also worth pointing out, and linking
Just a second.
They break down how
this lab's never unaffected.
It's time.
Meteor strike.
Justice reigns from above.
So it's fun to
Meteor strike.
The situation is incredibly unfortunate. I don't want them at all. But just a 4.3
Meteor strike.
During 12, that's Meteor strike, which is a 60% jump over the week prior. That's insane. Across 50 markets, 2.74 million games were downloaded during that week, which is a 59% jump over the prior week. Their example in France, which went into lockdown on March 17th, their digital downloading increased by more than 180%. According to them, console sales and physical sales were actually along
Justice reigns from above.
Steam broke a record. It's just fun to look at the numbers so far. But yeah, before we go, we gotta do a
Meteor
console
strike.
giveaway. We're not gonna stop. We want to keep giving you guys some new stuff right now. So, link in the description below is the giveaway. Click at the sign up.
Meteor strike.
For Nintendo Switches, there might be a link.
Personish.
But anyway, this person right here.
Meteor strike. Meteor strike.
I'm going to be reaching out to you to find out how to send you your free stuff. Good job.
Traveling
Good
to
job.
London.
Like I said, there's a lot of news this week, so I
Prepare
want to
your
know
defenses.
so much. So it's fun to
Select
point
your
out. Granted,
hero.
the situation is in France, which went into lockdown before Tuesday, March 17th. Their digital downloading increased by more than 180%. According to them, console sales and physical sales were actually still chugging along. Also, it's worth pointing out the rise in Twitch and YouTube viewership and Steam users, of course, which like broke a record, I believe, a week or.
Ken Klippenstein broke an amazing story for the nation here. And I know that I've given you about 100 stories related to this pandemic that have already pissed you off to the high heavens, but this one might take the cake. In 2017, the military identified a novel influenza disease as the most likely and significant threat, which it anticipated would lead to a shortage of ventilators, face masks, and hospital beds, per Pentagon document leaked to me. They knew. So, in the document, we're not going to go through the specifics because you got the gist of it right there, but they lay it out in detail. And, you know, honestly, tell you the truth, what this is fodder for conspiracy theorists, too. Because it almost seems like you're going to read this and go, this is almost like some, you know, 9/11 inside job type stuff where it's curious. You look at it and go, really? Guys, they literally even said in the report, coronavirus. Now, that might not be as, you know, as spooky as it seems, because coronavirus is a type of virus where there's a family of those viruses. It's a certain kind of virus. So that's why we originally called this the novel coronavirus. Novel meaning new to humans, coronavirus meaning the category of virus. But that's why the real name now, we call it COVID-19. Because it's a specific kind of coronavirus. There's a family of coronavirus. But in 2017, a U.S. government report said very clearly, okay, so probably the biggest threat that we're facing is a novel coronavirus, which will leave us with shortage of ventilators, face masks, and hospital beds.
Activating the barrier.
They knew, and they did nothing about it.
Come here.
Now, by the way, I'm not absolving the Obama administration either, because we told the story on this show of how we got that ventilator shortage. So in 2009, I believe it was, they contracted with a small medical device company
Knock me down and I'll keep getting
give us a lot of ventilators in case something like this happened. And they wanted a smaller, cheaper, easier to use ventilator. And a company got to work on it. They made the prototypes. The federal government looked and said, ooh, we like this one. So they ordered a whole bunch of them. You know what happened? A bigger medical device company called Covidien, curious enough, because we have COVID-19, and the name of the medical device company is Covidien. Covidien came in, bought the company, got the approval from the government to do so. That happened under the Obama administration. And then
no rest for the weary.
they canceled the contract and shut it all down. So the government was planning in 2009, hey, if we have a pandemic, let's make sure we're prepared. Because they didn't stick with the original company, because the bigger company bought it out, so monopoly power is a huge issue here. And they said no more to the deal, and the federal government agreed. All of that stuff, perfect storm of, now we're a mess, now we have a novel coronavirus, and you see the results unfolding right in front of you.
Hatched up.
Great work from Ken Klippenstein here, because he's basically showing they know. This is the equivalent of the George W. Bush memo. Bin Laden determined to attack in the United States. Remember that? Some of you might not. But there was a memo on George W. Bush's desk. Bin Laden determined to attack in the United States. And they did Dickie McGee's acts. They did nothing. And then Bin Laden attacked. And you know the rest of the story. Multi-trillion-dollar wars, hundreds of thousands of innocent people killed, torture.
Hatched up.
all that. They exploited the pre-existing ideology that they had, namely topple all the governments that are hostile to the U.S. This is the equivalent of that. This is the equivalent of Bin Laden determined to the attack on the United States. This is 2017. U.S. is susceptible to a novel coronavirus, and we have a shortage of hospital beds and face masks and ventilators and all that stuff. Lays out in extreme detail in that report. We're a failed state, man. I mean, what else is there to say about this? We're a failed state, and now, even handling the fallout of it, we just covered the story. We have in 1 week 6.1 or 6.6 million new unemployed people who filed for unemployment. The old record was just under 700,000. We have no idea what we're doing. We have no idea what we're doing. We don't know how to handle this. This is a total and complete disaster and mess. It's time for some serious change, man. Some serious change. We got to get all of the corrupt corporatists out of our government. We got to get all of the stupid people out of our government. We got to not only represent the people, but also listen to expertise when it's necessary. You know, I mean, this is... If there was ever a time you should have listened to the scientists and the health experts and the doctors, this is it right now, man. This is it right now. Think about all the money we wasted on unnecessary wars and the so-called defense budget. It's really the offense budget. All the money we just hand over to the military-industrial complex, no questions asked. Trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. And what's the cover story they give? We have to protect Americans! Yeah. That's what they said. Well, now we have a virus which has already killed more people than 9/11. And they're saying it'll be a victory if we only have 100,000 to 200,000 deaths as a result of this. A victory is that. So all that money to defend the country, and then meanwhile, the virus is doing something Al-Qaeda could only dream of. Imagine Al-Qaeda killed 100,000 to 200,000 Americans in the course of a season. What would our reaction be? There would be nukes dropped. But when it's a virus, we couldn't even do the basic preparedness of having the right number of ventilators, the right number of beds, the right number of masks. We couldn't even do the basic stuff. We couldn't have a stockpile of antiviral drugs. You know, there's an AIDS drug which helps fight RNA viruses, and this coronavirus is an RNA virus. Why didn't we have a stockpile of that? Why didn't we have a stockpile of that? We don't care about the real threats. Climate change is a real threat. A pandemic is a real threat. We don't care about any of that. But we do blow up the threats that aren't as serious so that we could give more money to the military-industrial complex. It's all a ruse. It's all, let's give money to the people who bought us. Whether it's Wall Street, which they're also doing, other big corporations, the oil industry is next to get a bailout, the military-industrial complex. It's all politicians just finding excuses to give more money to the people who bought them. That's what it comes down to. And the result is everybody else gets screwed.
I've got you in my sights. I can do this with my eyes closed.
Joining me now, someone with extensive experience coordinating large-scale disaster relief, retired Lieutenant General Russell Honore, who served as commander of Joint Task Force Katrina. Lieutenant, let's start with this big logistics question, something you've had experience with, you had experience with in the aftermath of Katrina. What is your reaction to hearing the news that we have this market, we've got these middlemen, and we've got the U.S. government and the U.S. Department of Defense facilitating this sort of private market full of middlemen and bidding wars?
Well, I always knew that the government would favor certain contractors, but I didn't know it was enabled by them. But based on what the Admiral said last night, I never knew in my 37 years in uniform that the government facilitates private companies by bringing stuff handed it over to them so they can sell it back at a higher, up to 7 times the price to the states, for which we're giving the states the money to buy. And I've never heard of that before. And that thing Mr. Kushner mentioned, I don't believe he knows what the hell he's talking about. He's totally clueless as to what he's talking about.
I've sighted the enemy. Get into position.
General, it seems to me that there are significant logistical capacities within both the Department of Defense and the federal government broadly to take more of a leadership role in this very fraught supply chain right now. Is that correct in your estimation?
Absolutely. And the president reluctantly signed and reluctantly executed the Defense Production Act, which could have been working now for what, 7 or 8 days ago he signed it reluctantly and then did not execute it. And now we've got U.S. companies who, during that period of time, did not make their products specifically to handle the problems in New York and New Orleans and Washington. They were selling it on the open market to the highest bidder. So we did not execute the Defense Logistic Act as it was intended to. And as a result of that, you got U.S. companies, United States American companies right here bargaining on the open market for the highest bidder, and sometimes outbidding FEMA, or in some cases FEMA outbidding them. It is like a Saturday morning flea market trying to figure out how in the hell to get supplies. And it'd be one thing, Chris, if the system was working. It's not working. The doctors and nurses across America, every morning and at night on the night shows, they're saying it's not working. And to stand up and defend it and say, we got it, we got the air bridge, come find out the air bridge is bringing stuff here and giving it to private companies to sell back to the highest bidder. That is a gross injustice for the intent of what the federal government should be doing. And I'm telling you, FEMA got some good people in it. But something politically has happened and pulled strings at FEMA and have changed the way their own standard operating procedures on their website say they're supposed to be operated. Something is terribly wrong, and I hope the president get this fixed.
More like it.
Because it's going to put our nation further and further at risk as this thing gets worse before it gets better. They need to fix the supply chain, and my recommendation to him is to give the Department of Defense a larger role in managing these supplies and getting them where they need to go. Have the National Guard put 2 non-commissioned officers or lieutenants in every hospital, get the count, report that to the governor, and get how many days of supply in each hospital, and get some discipline in the system. And every piece of PPE, or equipment come into the country is then taken control by the government and handed over to the military for distribution.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Have these conversations out in the open. Shit after people test positive, or you're not going to do what is necessary to make us feel safe. Hey, I am Cardi B, can you help boost our... It's the law here that you have to give people a certain amount, that it would take longer to buy the drying rack than it would to get the dildo. The drying rack to dry your laundry if you're doing laundry from home.
Tech news, yes! If you've been bored by the state of laptops for the past little bit, then good news!
The new blood's coming to town.
Okay, alright, this is a one take. AMD's mobile chips are already out in the wild, but now they're being joined by not only NVIDIA's RTX Super mobile GPUs, but Intel's 10th gen Comet Lake H CPUs. The Super line so far consists of the 2070 Super and 2080 Super, although the 2060 Super might be on the way later. CPUs! Unfortunately, early numbers aren't looking great for Intel, with the tiny lead in single core being the main selling point. But regardless, a swath of laptop manufacturers have announced new models with updated internals, including Gigabyte, Lenovo, Acer, and Razer, whose new Blade comes with an optional 300Hz display. Wow! Asus has gone one further, though, bringing a secondary display from its ZenBook Duo over to the ROG line with the ROG Zephyrus Duo 15, which Alex already took a look at.
Justice ain't gonna dispense.
Whoa, that got you excited. You really love Short Circuit. You know about that, don't you guys? It's like unboxings without the Toronto accent. On Wednesday, we covered a number of vulnerabilities in the video chat app Zoom, and now the app's CEO, Eric S. Yuan, said the company will pause development of new features as it works to fix the existing flaws. It's an admirably quick response to user backlash concerning Zoom's security issues, but the statement comes as even more problems are being discovered. Security researchers found that a tool called Z-Wardial could automatically find non-password protected Zoom meetings. Tools like this could enable Zoom bombing, where uninvited guests join Zoom meetings and cause a ruckus. You think? No, for real. People are doing that. And the Washington Post has also reported that thousands of recorded Zoom meetings are floating around the internet, uploaded to servers by meeting members who didn't realize that they weren't private. Am I missing something here? I literally had not heard of Zoom until a few weeks ago. Well, apparently, I'm so confused. Why aren't we using like the dozens of other video chat apps? And it's time for our usual roundup of free stuff being made available during the pandemic. Google is giving out 4,000 Chromebooks and setting up Wi-Fi for 100,000 households for students in rural California. And they're temporarily increasing the data cap for Google Fi to 30 gigabytes. That's mobile data. There's a boatload of free music resources available to would-be home producers right now, and The Verge has a thorough roundup of all that. Lyft is expanding the free mobility services it's offering to healthcare workers, with free scooter rides now available in Austin, Denver, DC, LA, San Diego, and Santa Monica. And Amazon Prime Video will host a virtual film festival to make up for the cancellation of South by Southwest, with the films that we're going to screen at that expo available on Prime for 10 days. Make sure you're prepared to walk out of your makeshift theater. Show your disapproval of the films that aren't sufficiently highbrow. I'm out of here! Now it's time for the Quick Bits, brought to you by a truly highbrow sponsor, Honey. The shopping tool that finds the best promo codes whenever you shop online at specific sites. It's a free browser extension for Chrome, Firefox, and Safari that saves you time and money when shopping online at over 30,000 stores. eBay, Newegg, Razer, Best Buy, Walmart, and more! We basically all use it here at the office because I use it for free. It's kind of a no-brainer. Get Honey for free right now at joinhoney.com/tech. Quick Bits. I didn't have anything for that. Is SpaceX okay? The company has lost their third Starship prototype during a test meant to simulate flight-like temperatures and pressures. A video of the incident shows the vehicle crumpling and folding over like it was just assaulted.
Objective A captured.
Apparently, this wasn't completely unexpected, but still goes to show Nicki Minaj maybe doesn't always know what she's talking about. No. Cloudflare has released a new version of their 1.1.1.1 DNS resolver designed for families. Oh! Oh no. The 1.1.1.2 service will block servers known to distribute malware, and 1.1.1.1.3 will block malware and adult content. Could be a handy tool for parents wanting to prevent their kids from seeing all the horrors of the world for a little bit longer.
Get it? Candy.
Oh no, it's starting. Speaking of horrors, Amazon is also launching a cloud gaming service very soon. The web giant has reportedly been working on Project Tempo for a while, and the service's first big game, a shooter called Crucible, is slated for release in May. I mean, Amazon's got good cloud gaming. Crucible apparently has anthropomorphic cats with guns.
If at first you don't succeed,
only imagine
blow it up again.
Here.
Stop me if you've heard this one. My ultimate's ready. Riptide ready.
Speaking of
to
game
roll.
streaming, GeForce Now is starting to add titles to its library instead of losing them. But unfortunately, the selection is still not so great. The service is getting Mount and Blade 2 Bannerlord, but the rest of the titles... Bannerlord! But the rest of the titles are kind of old. Are we heading for a world where Amazon has a good streaming service and Nvidia doesn't? And Google is using its ridiculously powerful big data sets to publish the COVID-19 Community Mobility Reports, which show how people in different communities have responded to the pandemic in terms of how or whether they are moving around. Businesses and governments could use the data to adapt better to the new world order, and I don't want to call it.
You're gonna shame you. Summon the battle!
The Data Lord. Ah. All right, that's enough of this. Come back on Monday for more tech news. Or else.
Play of the game.
What's up, you beautiful bastards? Hope you've had a fantastic Friday. Welcome back to the Philip DeFranco Show. And for today's Friday show, we're going to do something a little bit different. But before we do, I want to quickly thank the sponsors of our show during these uncertain times, as well as specifically the sponsor of today's show, Let's Get Checked. And Let's Get Checked is confidential at-home health testing with fast online results that are reviewed by a team of physicians. And they've also announced the upcoming launch.
The last time we spoke, I mentioned the work done by a very informative TikTok hamster. Well, I'm thrilled to tell you, it seems the hamster saw it.
A hamster just genuinely offered more useful public health advice in one 12-second TikTok than the president has in multiple addresses to the nation.
Yes! Yes, yes, yes! The hamster knows who I am! It might show just how much the isolation is getting to me, that it's genuinely heartwarming to experience even a connection like that right now. And by the way, I'd love to say that I would vote for that hamster for president, but given that their average life expectancy is just 3 years, I'm really going to have to wait to find out who its VP pick is. But COVID-19 continues to rip around the globe. On Friday, Boris Johnson, who had bragged earlier this month about shaking hands with coronavirus patients, tested positive for coronavirus. Meanwhile, India's Prime Minister has imposed a nationwide lockdown of its 1.3 billion residents, with some police punishing those who disobey by hitting them with sticks and making them do squats. And in Italy, which continues to be hit incredibly hard, there's been a trend of local leaders posting videos online yelling at their citizens for irresponsibly going outside, and they're incredible.
Mi arrivano notizie che qualcuno vorrebbe preparare la festa di laurea. Mandiamo i carabinieri, ma li mandiamo con i lanciafiamme.
Ora tutti i podisti sono diventati a Delia. Tutti che vogliono correre. Ma dove andate a correre?
Ste cazzo di parrucchiere che vanno in casa a aggiustare i capelli e febbre. A che cazzo servono? Cioè, ma l'avete capito che utavutu chiudono? L'avete capito che chi cazzo t'andava vedere per sti capelli aggiustati in utavutu?
Now, I know that seems extreme, but he is right. If your hair is bad, don't panic. Just let it be bad for a while. Yes, people may see it, and yes, it'll be embarrassing, but you will get through it. Trust me. Trust me. Hey, listen. Trust me. As for here in the United States, the virus continues to spread rapidly. We now have more confirmed coronavirus cases than any country in the world. Number one. And the president has only recently seemed to realise the gravity of the situation. As recently as a month ago, he was saying we have it very much under control, adding, stock market starting to look very good to me, before abruptly shifting gears to claim that he felt it was a pandemic long before it was called one, and then, just last week, making this grand declaration.
I'm a wartime president. This is a war. This is a war. Different kind of a war than we've ever had.
Yeah, I guess it is different, isn't it? It's like World War II, only the enemy is invisible. Or like the Vietnam War, only this time Trump is actually taking part. And yet, incredibly, after briefly embracing the need for everyone to engage in social distancing to flatten the curve, on Tuesday, our wartime president seemed to already be considering giving up the fight and encouraging everyone to go back to work.
We're opening up this incredible country because we have to do that. I'd love to have it open by Easter. Okay, I would love to have it open by Easter. I will tell you that right now. I would love to have that. It's such an important day for other reasons, but I'll make it an important day for this day.
Okay, setting aside the Easter's an important day for other reasons. The date he's setting is just 2 weeks from now, which is objectively way too soon. Let's break quarantine. It could be a lot worse than one honouring the time that Jesus was supposed to stay inside and didn't. And it's worth taking a moment to appreciate just how irresponsible that attitude is. Because we wasted so much time that we could have spent preparing, the virus is now widespread. And thanks to how we have massively botched the rollout of testing for the virus, we still don't know exactly how bad things are. So strict social distancing measures are our best shot at slowing this outbreak. Epidemiologists have said if it were possible to wave a magic wand and make all Americans freeze in place for 14 days while sitting 6 feet apart, the whole epidemic would sput to a halt. Now, obviously, that magic wand is impossible, but some people aren't even doing anything close to that. And if you need proof of just how true that is, just listen to the understandably exasperated governor of Kentucky.
We have a positive case today from someone who attended a coronavirus party.
Well, I suppose I'd be patching you up.
And this is the part where I, the person that tell everybody to be calm, have to remain calm myself.
Well, good luck with that, because you just used the phrase coronavirus party. And his disgust at that infuriating term was perfectly expressed by his sign language interpreter, who really got across the whole "what the fuck is wrong with you people" sentiment. Truly, that gesture speaks for America right now. Gift that woman immediately.
I'm gonna
So
get you
we
for that.
absolutely should not be relaxing measures yet. And Trump actually can't force states to do that. It's up to governors, some of whom, from both parties, are taking this very seriously. Fortunately, other governors are not. Ron DeSantis in Florida is still resisting issuing a statewide stay-at-home order. And in Texas, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick took things even further, agreeing with the president that the economic damage of a lockdown is just too great to bear.
Not living in fear of COVID-19. What I'm living in fear of is what's happening to us. And you know, Tucker, no one reached out to me and said, as a senior citizen, are you willing to take a chance on your survival in exchange for keeping the America that all America loves for your children and grandchildren? And if that's the exchange, I'm all in.
What are you talking about? First, if you really want to die so the US economy can boom, we already have a system in place for that, and it's called Black Friday. Have at it. Second, we know what's happened in other countries like Iran and Spain that didn't take social distancing seriously. They're now home to mass graves you can see from space and ice skating rinks being used as makeshift morgues. And I'm in no way minimizing the economic suffering caused by the shutdown, and we should do everything we can to mitigate it. This week's stimulus bill is probably only the start of what is needed for workers. But the idea that people should sacrifice themselves for the economy is absurd. And yet, it actually gained traction in this week, by a variety of conservative pundits, perhaps no more enthusiastically than this guy.
I contend there are millions of Americans just like me that will look at their children and their grandchildren's future and they will say, I am not going to have them a slave to debt. I am not going to erase their future because
I've sighted the enemy.
I'm not afraid to die. I am afraid that our nation might die. That means millions to poverty, illness, starvation, and a lack of hope.
This is my will.
I'm ready
Yeah, let's see if that will trend, you thirsty bitch. So, you get that the coronavirus is not the Hunger Games, right? You can't volunteer yourself as tribute. And what you're doing is actually much darker. You are actively volunteering others, including people of all ages with health conditions, to die. And even if these guys are okay with letting the coronavirus kill as many people as it feels like, so that the economy is protected, which again, really No one can hide from my sight. Significant drawbacks to hundreds of thousands of people dying. Hospitals would be completely overwhelmed, which means people suffering from things that aren't the coronavirus also wouldn't be able to get the treatment that they need, leading to even more people dying, which, to put this in the only terms that they seem to care about, also tanks the economy. So relaxing social distancing right now isn't just trading one bad outcome for another. It's trading one bad outcome for both bad outcomes. It's shitting on your cake and choking on it too. Look, it's critically important for America to be getting a clear, consistent message about the severity of the threat that we're currently facing. That is the only way that we will be able to manage this virus, contain casualties, and get back to something resembling normalcy. Floating an Easter end date isn't the only troubling decision the President has made. Right now, one of the major challenges facing hospitals across the country is a critical shortage of even basic personal protective equipment like masks, respirators, gloves, and face shields, because they are running short to an alarming extent.
There are people
Let
that
them up.
literally are wearing bandanas because they have nothing better than that to protect themselves.
I see people using the plastic protector sheaths for their kids' homework to
How about a little
we must ensure that they even wearing ski goggles, Halloween costumes, or masks.
Holy shit. That is terrifying, both for the medical workers who are risking their lives to help patients, but also for the patients. Imagine being hospitalized for coronavirus and then seeing this walk through the door. I'd opt out. Yeah, I might die, but that's better than whatever this No one can hide from my sight.
Surrender to my will.
Hospitals also
Огонь по
need
готовности.
ventilators to help people breathe. Without enough of them, people will die. And yet, as recently as
I've sighted the
Thursday,
enemy.
Trump was choosing to
Don't
not so
mess
much address the problem as try and minimize it. Don't you dismiss a request for ventilators in New York government?
I have a feeling that a lot of the numbers that are being said in some areas are just bigger than they're going to be. I don't believe you need 40,000 or 30,000 ventilators. You know, you go into major hospitals sometimes, they'll have
Let them up.
ventilators, and now all of a sudden they're saying, can we order 30,000 ventilators?
Yeah, that's the problem. Hospitals don't have that many ventilators, and now there's a pandemic. Trump must be so confused by fire departments. You walk into most houses, they've got some sinks, maybe a few cups. Now all of a sudden they're on fire and they say they need hundreds of gallons of water sprayed at them with hoses. I just don't buy it. And the thing is, medical equipment shortages are a problem that Trump actually could help solve. As a wartime president, he has a major tool at his disposal, the Defense Production Act. It enables the federal government to compel companies to prioritize the production of essential supplies. People have been begging him to use that authority for weeks now, but he only did so for the first time on Friday to force GM and only GM to make ventilators. And it's not like the DPA can magic them out of nowhere. It could still take months for companies to make them. That is why it would have been nice if Trump had invoked it 14 months ago. You know, when he saw it was a pandemic before everyone else.
Move the payload.
And there is still so much more he could be doing with the DPA, because it also allows the federal government to take charge of allocating materials like protective equipment and direct them to where they're most needed. And without that happening, right now, states are competing against each other in a free-for-all, as New York Governor Andrew Cuomo will tell you.
I'm competing with other states. I'm bidding up other states on the prices. Because you have manufacturers who sit there and California offers them $4.
Do something!
And they say, well, California offers $4, we offer $5.
No one
State
can
goes in
hide
and
from
offers
my
$6.
sight.
It's not the way to do it.
No, it isn't. States obviously shouldn't have to hope they can outbid each other for boxes of life-saving equipment while the nation watches. This is the government's response to a pandemic, not fucking storage wars. Again and again, Trump has failed to give this crisis the seriousness it requires. And make no mistake, this is serious. Too often, people discuss this in bloodless terms, citing the eeriness of empty streets or closed schools. But while the streets may be empty, hospitals are increasingly bursting at the seams, and the agony this virus causes is profound. I'm sure you've been reading the same stories I have of the woman whose 44-year-old husband died from this, or the parents of a 25-year-old who was placed in a medically induced coma. And the healthcare workers on the front lines know that this is just the beginning.
Today is kind of getting worse and worse. We had to get a refrigerated truck to store the bodies of patients who are dying. We are right now scrambling to try to get a few additional ventilators.
I want people to know that this is bad. People are dying. We don't have the tools that we need in the emergency department and in the hospital to take care of them. And it's really hard.
Yeah, and this was always going to be hard. But it actually didn't need to be this hard. And that is why it's so profoundly disheartening that we're being led through this crisis by a man who may be less equipped to deal with this historical moment than anybody in recorded history. Just watch what happened when one reporter pressed him on whether his Easter deadline was wise.
Lawmakers and economists on both sides of the aisle have said that reopening the country by Easter is not a good idea. What is that plan based on?
Just so you understand, are you ready? I think there are certain people that would like it not to open so quickly. I think there are certain people that would like it to do financially poorly because they think that would be very good as far as defeating me at the polls. And I don't know if that's so, but I do think it's so that that there are people in your profession that would like that to happen.
Oh, for fuck's sake! No one is thinking about you. These guidelines did not revolve around you. For once, something has come along that is more toxic and more threatening than this president, and somehow he's got fucking stage envy. And look, I know this isn't exactly the first time that I've criticised Donald Trump, but I can't tell you how much I was rooting for him to do this better. Handling a crisis well is not inherently political. Take Ohio Governor Mike DeWine. I disagree with him on basically everything, but he's doing a pretty good job so far. Also, if I'm honest, I never really liked Andrew Cuomo before this, but I will admit he's doing admirably well, and I can't wait to get to the other side of this when I can go back to being irritated by him again. And I wish I could honestly say that we're going to be fine, but I don't know that. Most of us will, but not all of us. And the number who won't is very much up in the air right now. What is clear is that a crisis of this magnitude ends up revealing a lot about who you are as a nation. And not all of what's being revealed is good. This virus is exposing some central vulnerabilities in our medical system, our political system, and our national psyche. Hospitals that have spent years trying to operate at maximum efficiency are now watching that efficiency turn into scarcity. Our decentralised government, which can be good when local leaders are empowered to protect their communities, has also led to states fighting each other for resources and a patchwork quarantine strategy that will almost certainly draw out the agony of this crisis. Meanwhile, we're being forced to confront some of the strangest, darkest implications of our national mindset, in which market worship threatens to become a fucking death cult. But at the same time, this virus has exposed some reserves of real strength in this country. We've seen extraordinary heroism, kindness, and ingenuity from everyone in essential lines of work, from our grocery store workers to those making deliveries, and especially our medical professionals, who deserve, among other things,